Episode 3 of Ahsoka is titled Time to Fly and expands on so much of the state of the New Republic within the Star Wars universe. The episode also picks up on Sabine's training with Ahsoka and Huyang overlooking. Ahsoka insists on training her further to trust the Force. Ren really struggles as a Mandalorian to pause and analyze her surroundings with no vision. I liked having the smaller character moments between Ahsoka and Ren. We hardly see any females training other females in the Force, other than Carrie Fisher and Daisy Ridley in the Star Wars films that we saw, but I can't wait to see how much more different the Jedi are becoming in that post-Empire universe. But the Empire isn't exactly gone, at least according to General Hera Syndulla. She's aboard the New Republic fleet and is meeting with the Chancellor of the New Republic, Mon Mothma, along with new senators from across the galaxy. The two parties spar when Hera mentions that the Empire is not really gone and it's not as shattered as previously expected. Senators are war-weary and see no reason to send people to panic after the long galactic civil war. Hera, however, insists further, claiming that there is a chance that the elite Admiral Thrawn might return. If he controls the Imperial fleets, the New Republic could in fact be doomed. The General requests a task force to investigate the Denab System. That's where she thinks the activity might be taking place. Mothma is scared at the thought of Thrawn returning, but one senator isn't too convinced. He thinks that Hera is using Ezra Bridger's disappearance as a way to gain more funding. Hera counters the senator's point by asking if he was ever in war. The senators as a whole deny Hera, while she thinks that the New Republic has no choice but to be involved in the conflict. The meeting basically ends in a stalemate. Chopper and Hera's son, Jacen Syndulla, greet her outside the meeting. Jacen is the little boy of both Hera and Kanan Jarrus from the Star Wars Rebels show. We saw his introduction at the conclusion of Season 4 of Rebels. Now, he's grown a little taller and is super excited to hear Sabine is retraining as a Jedi. Jacen tells his mom that he also wants to be a Jedi one day. Meanwhile, Sabine advances further in her own training, while struggling in some areas within the Force. Ahsoka says that it takes some time, but Sabine hoped that with the situation with finding Ezra, that would have sped her training up a little bit. But essentially, Sabine says that she doesn't feel the Force and can't use it like others. Ahsoka reminds her that the Force does live within every person. Talent, training, and focus determines the potential of a Force user, according to Ahsoka. She tells Sabine that it takes immense focus to harness the Force and encourages her to start small, like little rocks that Luke Skywalker used in The Empire Strikes Back, for example. Huyang is in the cockpit and flying the ship and tells Ahsoka they haven't gotten an update from Hera yet about the reinforcements from the New Republic. Huyang is intrigued by Sabine's progress in Jedi training so far. Ahsoka says that it's a challenge for her and Sabine as a master and apprentice. Huyang tries to make an argument that Sabine just might not be Jedi material. He says that if Sabine was presented to the Jedi Council of old, they would have not trained her in the Force. The standards that lasted over a millennia doesn't really convince Ahsoka, however. She says that the standards failed and that she doesn't really need Sabine to be a full Jedi. Ahsoka wants Sabine to be herself, and that Huyang claims that Ahsoka comes from a line of unconventional Jedi, referring to her former master, Anakin Skywalker, a very untraditional Jedi Knight during the Clone Wars. Hera meanwhile sends a transmission to the trio and says that the fleet cannot join their mission. The Senate denied their request, and Hera's signals goes dead. They reach the Denab System but have their communications jammed, entering the planet's orbit. After landing in Cetos' forest, Huyang starts repairing the ship, but they are quickly discovered and attacked. Sabine and Ahsoka set out to recover the map, but are intercepted by Shin Hati and Merrick. Ahsoka swiftly defeats Merrick with a single strike of her lightsaber, while Sabine hesitates and stays behind, against Huyang's advice. Baylan Skoll stands in Ahsoka's way, and they engage in a duel. Ultimately though, Ahsoka loses and falls into the ocean. Thinking she has lost Ahsoka, Sabine gives in to the idea of Ezra still being alive, and she returns the map to Baylan, allowing Morgan Elsbeth to complete the calculations for the Eye of Sion to reach Thrawn's location. Sabine is captured, and Ahsoka is left for dead. General Hera Syndulla disobeys his Chancellor Mothma's orders and rushes to the aid of her friends. Carson, Teva, and 4 X-Wing fighters join her. As they arrive at Cetos, Morgan Elsbeth jumps into hyperspace, temporarily disabling their ships, leading to the destruction of 2 X-Wings in the ensuing chaos. Episode 5 is a full dive into the psyche and into the character Rosario Dawson is playing in the Star Wars universe. After falling into the ocean, Ahsoka encounters Anakin Skywalker. They have a brief chat before going into Ahsoka's memories, where she gets to learn her final lesson. We get flashback scenes to when she was recruited by Anakin's Padawan. Hayden Christensen returns and plays the role of both General and Master Skywalker. Captain Rex even makes a cameo appearance during a Clone Wars battle flashback scene. There was plenty of foresight sequences of Darth Vader creeping through as well. The reappearances of the Anakin Skywalker actor was a simple explanation of why Episode 5 might be a huge highlight. Christensen is fantastic in the role, and he plays the role of an older brother who is similarly faced with the massive weight and mixes between challenging and being sensitive throughout the training. The two talk about the Jedi's purpose during this time period and how it's altering. We must evolve with the times. When Obi-Wan taught me, we were peacekeepers. Now, in order to win this war, I must teach you how to be a soldier, he says to Ahsoka. Bravo to Dave Filoni on creating a unique concept like the world between worlds to bring back old but familiar faces. We saw Darth Vader fighting Ahsoka with no Vader suit and at full health. I just love the elements that the show was exploring when it came to Master versus Apprentice. Ahsoka took some of the best of her old master, but also neglected from the bad lessons from his darker side. Not much later, she's found by Hera, floating in the middle of the ocean, and Ahsoka has essentially been reborn. She has finally faced her fears that were holding her down, and now the change in her character is pretty visible from her demeanor to her robes. This is the version of Ahsoka that we've been waiting for. Ahsoka later uses the Force to detect pieces of Sabine's memory confined in a dissolved map, and finds that she's gone to some remote corner of another galaxy with Baylan Skoll, Shin Hati, and Morgan Elsbeth. She concludes that the only way to find her is to seek the help of the Purgles, aka those space whales, who happen to be in the middle of a cross-galaxy migration. The 6th episode of Ahsoka takes us to a CG sequence of those same Purgles in a vibrant intergalactic migration. And then we cut to Ahsoka and Huyang discussing Huyang's Jedi Temple history teachings aboard the spaceship on a Purgle's tongue. David Tennant's voice acting is just superb, giving Huyang an insightful but peculiar personality. Ahsoka informs Huyang that she's aware of Sabine's open decision to join Baylan Skoll, Shin Hati, and Morgan Elsbeth, which might lead to the return of Admiral Thrawn and possibly a full-fledged war. Huyang counters, claiming Sabine might have made the best decision for herself. Frustrated, Ahsoka shifts the conversation and requests for a history lesson from Huyang, beginning with the iconic phrase, "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away." In this episode, Ahsoka steps back from the plot, putting Sabine and her group at the center stage. Sabine awakens in a lovely cage on Morgan's ship and is unhappy with her situation. Ray Stevens' character, Baylan Skoll, has a deception and a complex character with different nuances. I feel real conflict along with a wise insight within his darker history and suspicion with the Force. Baylan's empathy for Sabine is evident, but his underlying motivations also remain unclear. Now for the major development, Thrawn. But Sabine gets released from her cage and moved to Peridia's surface, where she was chaperoned by Shin Hati. This is where Ahsoka's uniqueness shines through, in my opinion. We've never seen those Nightsisters in live action before. They've only been featured in animated programs and online games. Now, they're here in the flesh. Their presence here is fascinating, draped in blood-red robes and pointed caps that evoke a mix of Dune and Star Wars themes. The Nightsisters' lavish approval on Morgan, Sabine's Jedi essence, is detected by the Knights, prompting in her murky reaction. First shock, followed by some anger and resentment at being singled out. Following Sabine's departure, Shin and Baylan contemplate the universe and meaning of the cycle of power in Star Wars. Baylan perceives the planet as a world of dreams and craziness, although Shin Hati sees it a little bit differently. Baylan recalls hearing legends and seeing the Jedi Temple's destruction in older visions. Their talk suggests that they want to stop the cycle of history that's been happening, and that the planet might hold that solution. Meanwhile, Sabine reaches out to Ahsoka and temporarily taps into the Force, making her cell walls tremble. But an Imperial destroyer arrives outside her window, indicating the arrival of Thrawn. The ship arriving is the Chimera, the once legendary and fortified command ship of Admiral Thrawn. Meeting the live-action Thrawn is a tall order, especially since Lars Mikkelsen reprising his old Rebels role. Thrawn displays powers while leading his stormtroopers. Even after decades in hiding, Mikkelsen's portrayal of a measured and shrewd planner shines through. he congratulates Morgan Elsbeth and her crew for handling his return. Thrawn is also taken up to trust the Nightsisters and their dark magic for their assistance in his return as well. Thrawn acts indifferent when he discovers Sabine's presence, but he's secretly planning something. In exchange for her departure, he provides her supplies as well as information on Ezra Bridger's last whereabouts, and even weapons. He does, however, want to strand Sabine and possibly harm Ezra as well. Sabine's dissatisfied answer shows that she's unlikely to be deceived, but Thrawn dispatches Baylan and Shin to pursue her, displaying his strategic skill and icy demeanor. Sabine receives a mount from Enoch, the leader of Thrawn's army.
Hey movie lovers, welcome to Real Talk Movies, your next destination for all things cinema. If you're a big film fanatic like me, smash that like button and hit subscribe. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on future discussions, in-depth reviews, and analysis on all things related to film. Now, back to the video.
Enoch returns her weapons and cautions her on the perils of the planet while wishing her to die well. Sabine embarks on her adventure. She's ambushed by nomads and demonstrates her combat skills in a spectacular fight sequence. Along the way, she meets the cute, nosy creatures who offer her aid at their camp. In a brief scene, Baylan Skoll later refers to Ezra as a Boken Jedi, a word that's never been used before. These Jedi, including Luke Skywalker and Rey, were trained after the fall of the Order. Baylan, on the other hand, stresses that Shin is something greater than that kind of Jedi, indicating the Force has something in store for both of them. Baylan laments the Jedi's Order's concept, but not its flaws, illustrating that there was no future there. He detects something tremendous on the planet, something greater than the Nightsisters' talents. Sabine discovers her answer amongst the Nodi. They lead her to their humble town, which is reminiscent of a classic fantasy film. Sabine is taken aback by Ezra's thick beard, which reminds us of his lengthy absence. Although their conversation and reunion are pleasant and short, actor Iman Esfandi's Ezra is on his way back, and he's going to discover what Sabine went through to find him. The Nightsisters have seen the threads of fate are merging, and don't forget that Ahsoka is also on her way. Despite some weird minor aesthetic imperfections, I think all these episodes leading up to this have been brilliant. It successfully resolves long-awaited Rebels cliffhangers, as well as adding a fresh and unique atmosphere. This speaks well for the future, and if Dave Filoni can keep up this pace, we can just start to get a little more enthusiastic about his forthcoming Star Wars feature film. We'll leave those thoughts for another video. Let me know what you guys thought about episode 3 to 6. Let me know what's been your major highlights, what's been some of the shortcomings for the show so far, and what are you looking forward to seeing in the final episodes of Ahsoka. Share all those thoughts down below. Thank you for watching today's video, and I hope that you enjoyed today's topic. If you could hit that sub button, that would be awesome. Hit that like button and boost my video up on the algorithm. Click that bell so you don't miss any of my videos that get uploaded. And if you have some time to spare, check out some of these videos on your screen right now.